Welcome, everyone, to the Oddities podcast. It is sponsored by the Oddities Coffee Shop and Novelty Store, located at 4182 Cordata Parkway. We're doing the drawing for the Xbox One on December 13th. There's no purchase necessary. Come on in, ask the barista for an entry form. We're doing a different giveaway every single month, and there's no purchase necessary to enter. We also are serving organic coffee, and we have a lot of novelty, toys, games, and home items in the store as well. It's perfect this time of year for Christmas gifts, so come on in, check us out. We got free Wi-Fi, indoor seating, the whole 9 yards. Everything is there. If you guys are interested in winning a $30 gift card from listening to the podcast, please submit your questions to questions@odditiespodcast.com. If we read and answer your question on the podcast, we'll send you a $30 gift card. The questions can be about whatever you like, but try to keep them somewhat short and succinct. Please include your name, age, and location. It's just helpful to give some context. We're never going to read your full name, just your first name, so don't worry about that. And if we read and answer the question, you get the $30 gift card, and we'll also send you a thing for free coffee and a free little gift certificate for the store as well. My guest today is Maria Dalzot. She's a professional long-distance trail and mountain runner living here in Bellingham, Washington. She's the North American mountain running champion, the Trail Half Marathon national champion, and she's also a member of multiple U.S. teams competing in the U.S. and also Europe. She has her master's degree in human nutrition and food science and also offers coaching for trail and mountain runners. She's here today to talk about her journey to get to where she's at, her struggle with anxiety, and the ups and downs along the way. So I hope you guys enjoy the show.
You're listening to the Oddities Podcast.
That's recording. Everything's good? All right, Maria. Well, thanks for being here and doing this.
Thank you
I really
for
appreciate
having me.
it. I've been following you on Instagram for over a year now.
Wow.
I follow a lot of runners. You, Cameron Haynes, Goggins, Courtney DeWalter.
Oh, yes.
I love to run. I used to run a lot before I got a tick-borne illness I'm dealing with, so I'm not able to physically run like I used to.
Okay.
But I've kind of lived vicariously through other people like yourself, which I've kind of had to do. And just recently, in the last few weeks, I've been able to start running again.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, so I'm super excited about
Yes.
that. But why don't you take us back a little bit? I always like to get a little bio, a little background on people before we kind of get into everything.
Sure.
For everyone listening, why don't you just kind of give everyone maybe a 1 or 2 minute bio on like where you're from and how you got started running and how you ended up here.
Oh man, it's gonna be hard to sum up in a tweet, basically. But
yeah, you can take more than a minute or two. It's okay.
So I am originally from Morgantown, West Virginia, born and raised, and I started running as a small kid just for fun. Running around the yard was just what I enjoyed doing, and I remember a family member put in my mom's head that I should go out and run cross country or run track, and so I started running when it was first offered, and I believe for me that was the 7th grade.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I'm the youngest of 3. Yeah, I have
Okay.
an older brother and older sister.
And do you come from like a very active family?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
I am the complete black sheep. I have nothing in common with my family, which is why I live on the West Coast and they live on the East Coast. And so that was, no one could understand why I like to run. It was just this weird thing. I went kicking and screaming to swim lessons, and the only way my mom could get me to actually participate was if she promised to let me run around the track, because the track was right next to the swimming pool.
Okay.
So I was just really weird to them in that way. And so I started running for junior high, and I had success in 7th and 8th grade, and that was a natural progression onto high school. And again, I had success. I was the state champ in the 2 mile, and I would think I was runner up in the cross country state championships. And so during that time, I was able to develop a relationship on the off season with the West Virginia University coach. And so again, everything was just a natural progression. So from there, I started running for West Virginia University in college, which is an NCAA Division I school. And while at the same time studying for my nutrition degree, which is human nutrition and food science
Mm-hmm.
while getting a master's degree while running on scholarship. I do
Wow.
not recommend it. It was a very
Uh-huh.
challenging time in my
You had a full
life.
plate.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
So I ran through college, and I found that running consistently on the roads and on the track, I kept getting injured. I kept little niggles kept coming up. I was breaking bones in my
Oh
feet
wow,
and
yeah, like stress fractures and
stress
stuff like that. Yeah.
fractures, metatarsal stress fractures. I've had 3.
Oh wow.
I've actually had bunion surgery. I've had my toe broken and like
And this is all
rod.
from running on pavement.
Not all, just running, or
Overuse.
just overuse and
Uh-huh.
running, and just figuring out what my body can handle. Because
Mm-hmm.
also during that time, I'm also growing and developing, and so I want to be good. I want to be competitive, and in
Mm-hmm.
order to do that, I need to push myself. But it's such a hard thing to determine because you're walking a fine line
Mm-hmm.
between pushing yourself but also respecting, hey, my body can't do this
Yeah.
right now. And so it was constantly, oh, I pushed too far. I
Mm-hmm.
pushed over the line. Now I'm injured. And
Mm-hmm.
but I found that it was constantly happening during track season. I don't think I ever had a healthy track season in college.
Oh
And
wow.
so
Mm-hmm.
what I discovered just by chance is that I felt really good on the trails, is
Mm-hmm.
that because each movement was different and I was working different muscles with
So you, do
every
you,
step.
so you're saying that like when you're running on just a flat surface,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a lot of variation,
Exactly.
that your muscles get overworked and overused, and so like, oh, I see the
So
difference
there's
of the
lots of
trail. Like,
compensation, but with the trail,
okay.
every step is different. You're
Mm-hmm.
working different muscles. You're climbing, you're descending.
Mm-hmm.
It just has enough variation that I wasn't experiencing as much injury. And so my coach is really great because he let me train on the grass
Mm-hmm.
and on the trails while my teammates were,
Mm-hmm.
on the
And how
roads.
long was it into you being a runner that you started running on trails and it was like, oh wow, like my body feels different, this is definitely working better?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you were running on pavement and you're getting a track and you're getting these injuries, did you ever think, oh, if I ran on a trail it might be different, or did it just happen accidentally that you discovered, oh, I feel so much better
I
now?
think it happened accidentally
Uh-huh.
just because it was something I enjoyed doing and it was something that I did in the off season, but then I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
figured it out by doing it more
Mm-hmm.
often, and that I felt better, and just coming back from an injury, you don't want to go straight to pavement or straight on the track. You want a soft surface. And so
Yeah.
it was just like, well, let's just keep being kind to my body, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and keep running on these softer
Mm-hmm.
surfaces. And so so that just was again a natural progression
Mm-hmm.
into trail running. Once I finished my college career, I started getting into the trails, and I started and actually what brought me out here is kind of just this serendipitous happening, is that I was running cross country, and I was in my last year of grad school,
Mm-hmm.
and the Canadian cross country national championship was up in Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
and my college coach is Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my teammates were going to BC to run,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never been. And so I decided to make the trip out here, and I was with my now husband Tad, and we came out here, and 3 weeks later it was the club cross country championships down in Seattle, and so they were 3 weeks apart. So we thought, we'll just stay out here. Where's right in between? We looked at a map. It was Bellingham,
Mm-hmm. Oh
Washington.
wow.
And
Uh-huh.
so that was in November of 2011, and we're like, this place is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And so I went
Okay.
home and finished up school and told mom and dad we're going across the country to
Wow.
live. Didn't
Well,
know
uh-huh.
anybody, didn't have a job,
Uh-huh.
just was fresh out of school. And Tad works from home, so he was able to
Okay.
kind of uproot to anywhere we wanted. And so that's what brought us
Oh,
here.
that's
It was
great.
literally the trail
Okay.
system in
Uh-huh.
Bellingham that brought us out here.
I have probably like a million questions now
Okay,
after everything
sure.
you just
Yep,
said.
yep.
So back when you first started running, you said, your mom wanted you to swim, right?
Well,
Or
just swimming lessons, just
swimming
to learn how to
lessons.
swim.
What
Yes.
is it about running, do you think, at that time? And I don't know if you even remember what your mental, emotional state was, but why did you love running so much?
That's a great question.
Uh-huh.
I honestly don't know. I
Uh-huh.
love tag, the game tag, in gym. Like,
Uh-huh.
I always wanted to be it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just, and I never learned how to ride a bike
Uh-huh.
until very later on, like way later than normal children learn how to
Mm-hmm.
ride a bike. And I would just tell everybody, oh, it's okay, I can just run everywhere.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
it was basically freedom. It was
Mm-hmm.
a way for me to, just, I guess it was a form of self-expression.
And at that moment when you started running, was it an instant obsession? I mean, you like to play tag, you like to run, but
Mm-hmm.
did you get like kind of obsessed with running where you then wanted to go run all the time? Like
Um,
not just play tag, but like go actually.
yeah, I wouldn't say it was
Uh-huh.
obsessed. I was very disciplined from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So even in when I 7th grade, I first started running competitive. It was always I'm training, like I'm in
Mm-hmm.
training mode. I remember in high school, my coach would tell me I need to have a little bit more fun. I need to stay
Okay.
up later. Like I
Okay.
was just very disciplined.
Uh-huh.
I'm very, um, I'm a very easily motivated person.
Okay.
He mentioned David Goggins before, so
Oh, Goggins,
all like
man.
if I'm having a
That's
low day, I
crazy.
just put on some Goggins
Me
and
too.
fire it
Even
up.
if I'm not
Yeah,
running, I put
yeah,
on some Goggins.
yes,
I literally, this is not a joke. He just he did that
yes,
240.
yep, yeah,
That, I don't know if, I'm sure you saw the
yep,
clip where he's
yep.
walking
I
with a
did.
guy and they're playing the Rocky music. I probably watched that 100 times.
That's
I'll watch it
awesome.
in my
Yeah,
car
yeah.
when I'm driving.
That's
Just
awesome.
have it on repeat.
Yeah,
Oh, I
no, we
love
all
it.
need a little Goggins in our
Oh, it's
life.
so good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah, I agree.
So at what point though, when you first started running as a kid, it was probably fun, and then you started running, you said when you were 13, 7th,
Yeah,
8th
around
grade,
there. Well, probably
competitively?
yes, probably 11.
And was that the
11,
first
12.
time you started like competing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what was it like then? When you first got out there, were you nervous? Did you think, oh, I'm gonna destroy all these people?
Oh, I
What was
was
your
very
confidence level
nervous.
at?
I
Uh-huh.
actually, and I'm very open with this. I've talked about it before, but I have anxiety. I've had it since I
Hmm.
started running. I was probably in the 7th grade when it started, and so always
So it
nervous.
started right when you started competing.
Pretty much, yeah. I actually remember
And
having my
what
first panic
leads you
attack. Yeah.
to the anxiety? Is it the thought of I might lose, I might embarrass myself, I might not live up to my own expectation? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is it?
Actually weren't connected, so it was
Uh-huh.
like completely like I was just sitting in class one day and had a
Just,
panic attack
oh
and
wow.
didn't know what happened and called
Uh-huh.
my mom and I'm like I don't know what's going on, and she actually picked me up from school and I still remember driving home not feeling okay, and
Hmm.
so from then I've gone through lots of ups and downs with anxiety in my life, but being nervous for races, it's always like I handle it a lot better
Hmm.
now, thankfully.
Yeah.
But no, I was always super nervous. But when I first started running, it came pretty easily, and I had success. Like when I was in middle school, I was either winning or I was top,
Hmm.
3, or if in larger
Hmm.
races top 10. So
Yeah.
it was a constant positive feedback that kept
And
fueling
what do
it.
you think set you apart that allowed you to be so dominant and do so well in these races? Was it, I know you mentioned you're very disciplined.
Mhm.
And when you
Mhm.
say disciplined, do you mean like diet and training and
Mhm.
all of the above? Or is it something you're doing that most runners aren't doing or most people, kids at that age, weren't doing? Like, what do you think it was?
Probably just the training aspect, just doing
Uh-huh.
more volume than
How
normal.
much were you running? Do you
I
remember?
honestly don't remember.
Uh-huh.
I just don't. I have no idea at
Uh-huh.
that time because I wasn't, it wasn't super structured at the time. It was me making my own.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but no, that was like 20 years ago now.
Uh-huh.
I'm 31.
Uh-huh.
Yikes.
Uh-huh. So, from school, then you said when you went to high school, you were running,
Mhm. Mhm.
and at what point did you notice a degree in, I guess, competition? Where do you remember a point where it felt like the competition was getting better, or was high school, I imagine, a lot more competitive, or did you
Mhm.
not even notice it there, and you still were just very dominant in your?
When I was actually runner up in cross country my freshman year, so again
Okay.
I was pretty successful
Mm-hmm.
early on, and then and then I was injured my sophomore year. It was that awkward year where I was going through puberty and my body was changing and I didn't know what to do with it, and it
Uh-huh.
was like just a bunch of awkwardness, and so my sophomore year I remember was really challenging, but then my junior year I got it together and was able to get super fit, and that's when I won the 2 mile.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually decided to not compete for my high school my senior year, and I actually spent my senior year traveling around to different track meets around the country, just
Mm-hmm.
getting more experience before heading into college.
Okay.
Mhm.
And at what point do you start to get into like food? And let me
Mhm.
ask you this about like footwear and shoes.
Okay.
Like when you were just a kid first starting
Oh
off,
my
you just
goodness.
probably just wore whatever.
Oh my gosh, I think I had a
Like,
pair of like Adidas basketball shoes, like if I remember
uh-huh.
correctly. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then in high school, freshman year, what were you like? At what point do you start to learn about shoes, diet? Like, did you start to learn about that a lot in high school, or were you getting coached early on? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's been a while since I've like thought about all of this stuff, and I think food was always something that's been a huge part of my life
Mm-hmm.
because I come from a big Italian Catholic family,
That
and
sounds like my family.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
same thing. Catholic
Yes.
school for 10 years,
Oh
everyone.
yeah, same
Oh
here.
my
Same here.
gosh.
We could
Oh
this
my
all the
gosh.
stories we could tell.
Yeah. I'm not Catholic anymore, but okay.
But and I mentioned earlier, I'm out here because I'm the black sheep of my
Mm-hmm.
family. I don't have much in common with my family, but food is something that still brings us together. It is
Mm-hmm.
still the cornerstone of all of our family events. And so I was very, very fortunate to grow up in a very food positive environment.
Mm-hmm.
My mother never talked about dieting. Nobody talks about their bodies
Mm-hmm.
being inadequate. And so I really attribute my love and respect of food
Mm-hmm.
due to the environment that I grew up in. And for that, I'm very grateful because I know a lot of people, are in circumstances where they might not have gotten the best role models or have been shaped by diet culture rather than
Mm-hmm.
a positive influence. And so food just kind of made sense as
Mm-hmm.
far as not just my running life, but
Mm-hmm.
the rest of my life.
So you've always been a pretty healthy eater then, or
Yeah, my
uh-huh.
mom, when she had me, she turned into a stay-at-home mom,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was very, very lucky to have wonderful home-cooked meals every
Mm-hmm.
night, and I'm very lucky to have that. Yeah.
So at this point in your career, have you got your diet down to a science? And in terms of if you have a big race coming up, I'm
Mhm.
curious, are you carb loading? Are you keto? Like, what is your diet
Mhm.
preparation up to a race that you find your body responds the best to?
Mhm. And so
I'm
we're
just
talking like, and we're still back
well,
in
we
are
can
we
jump around a
talking
little bit
now?
because that's the
Okay.
kind of way that my brain works. I have a
Yeah,
hard time
sure.
staying in one spot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Mhm.
Obviously, everyone's different genetically, but have
Right.
you found, like, I was listening to Courtney DeWalter on Rogan, and she drinks beer, nachos, and candy. Like,
Mhm.
that's what, you know,
Right.
and that's kind of, I don't know how she can perform like that, but I was
Right.
curious
Right.
what your diet is
Right.
like.
Right. Right. And so
Uh-huh.
oh, this is a so I am a registered dietitian, and
Mm-hmm.
I am a non-diet dietitian, which means I don't enforce any one way of eating. I tell everyone I'm a nutrition agnostic, so I don't believe there's one way of eating for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so talking about through eating through high school and college, I was very fortunate, because eating disorders are very common amongst
Mm-hmm.
that population, and I was very lucky to not experience that myself. But I did engage in some um, disordered eating behavior, whether it's, oh, I have to not, you know, I have to refrain from any kind of dessert until after the race. And I just kind of, again, it was that discipline.
And this is just you're in your own mind, you being so competitive. You were doing
Yeah,
that
it's
to
like, oh,
yourself. Yeah.
that's, yeah, no one told
no,
me
no
not
one's
to do
like,
that, but it was like
uh-huh,
me being like, oh, it's
uh-huh.
like this air of, it's hard to outwork once you're in like a really competitive setting like
Mm-hmm.
college. It's hard to outwork people. All my life I've been able to work the hardest, and now it's like, oh, I'm with super talented people I can't who are working just as hard as I
And
am.
you're looking
So
for every
so
edge.
what can I
Yeah.
do? I'm not going to eat dessert, and I'm going to, eat, I don't know. I was never a super strict eater, but I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely aware of it. And so as I started getting into nutrition and learning about what it actually takes for your body to be healthy, and thinking outside the scope of running, I kind of had to get myself out of that running bubble because health and eating well is so much more than running.
Yeah.
And so once I kind of broke free from that, that is what has helped shape the paradigm that I teach others now, which is intuitive eating, which is going back to your body being the expert instead of listening to external
Mm-hmm.
factors to tell you who, what, when, where, how you should be
Mm-hmm.
eating. So to answer your question, I don't have a strict diet. I eat in a way that is very
So you kind of
satisfying to
listen to
me.
your body and just give it what it wants,
I
but you don't like
do.
stock up on calories before a race or do anything different. It's
Um,
just kind
I,
of.
I, it's, and I don't like to use this word. It is something that I don't. I think about, like, for example, if I had a race tomorrow, I am actually, my last race of the year is December 7th. I'm running a 50 miler.
Mm-hmm.
So if tomorrow was the race, I'd think, okay, I'm running 50 miles tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to eat you know, 3 pounds of Brussels sprouts, which I actually did before my first 50-mile race. I don't recommend it.
And what happened there?
It was okay. I
Uncomfortable?
actually a little uncomfortable. No, that was more of a, I wasn't really racing that. I was just trying to get through that. But if I, you know, was running tomorrow, I would think, okay, what's going to be really, you know, gentle on my stomach? It might be pizza. It might be rice. It might be eggs.
I
It
love
might
that.
be bread.
I love your
But
philosophy.
but that's like it, you know. And I actually made shirts that said running is getting from point A to point B without pooping your pants. I mean, that's all it is.
By
Like,
the way, a real quick
yeah.
side note, because I was on your website reading your blogs, that bee sting photo.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone should check out her website. When I was scrolling through reading, because I was reading your blogs and everything, I was like, wait, is that her? Like, you look so different.
Yes.
I was like, wait, is that the same person?
I know. I got that
was
from everybody. They're like, does Maria have like a relative in town that got
yeah,
ill?
I was just like, yeah, your face is like really swelled up.
Yes.
So on that
bad.
race, is that when you discovered you were allergic to bees for the first time?
No, that's actually the third race I've got. Oh no, it wasn't during the race. It was, I got stung on a run a week leading up to that race that the blog report was talking about. But I've gotten stung like literally 5 seconds before the starting line. I actually squatted over a hornet's nest.
What?
And it bit my ass like 5 seconds before the starting line.
Oh my God. And were you freaking out like, oh my God?
Yeah, that was pretty bad. And then
hornet?
it happened again on my butt. I feel like Forrest
Twice?
Gump. Yeah, on the buttocks.
Wow.
Yep.
What are you squatting over? You gotta be careful.
Yeah, I'm like, I heard something, and I'm like, what is that noise? And like, and then it was like a swarm of ground hornets.
And what happened when that hornet bit you? Could you not run then?
No, because it was in my butt, so it was like, you know, a hardy place to get stung. Versus when I got stung in the face, it obviously just blew up. But over the years, the reactions are getting worse and worse and worse. And so after I had to be in the emergency room for it, I got an EpiPen because for that was actually volcanic 50. I got stung last year, and so I didn't want it to happen again this year, especially right after that sting happened. So I ran with an EpiPen.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy.
But yeah, you can go and laugh about it. I'm okay. Once we figured out that I was okay, we could have a good laugh about it.
So back to college.
Yes.
So you're running college, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess out of like when you first started running when you're 7 or 8, and then high school and then college, is there a particular time period that you enjoyed the most? And also, I'm sure you found the college athletes a lot more competitive than high school. And I guess 2-part question: which one did you enjoy the most, and which one was the most stressful? Would you say? Would it be college, probably, or?
Probably college, because you're dealing with a lot of, like, you're turning into a grown-up at the same time and getting degrees and just figuring out what you want to do after. So probably that time. Honestly, when I look back, I never think, oh, I wish I was still there. Like, I never think, oh, I wish I was still doing track workouts. I never think that. I miss how fast I used to be. Admittedly, I can't, you know, run nearly as fast as what I used to be, and so that's
when
more what I think about.
That slowing down a little bit.
When I became a trail runner and started running longer distances and just unable to train at the level that I did. I mean, I trained really hard through high school and college, and the intensity. I train hard in a different way now. Like back then, for example, I was running 40 miles a week with 3 workouts a week and really intense. And now I'm running like mile repeats, 800-meter repeats, tempo runs. And now I'm running 90 miles a week with long tempo runs and like 28-mile long runs. So it's just totally different. You could basically say I'm doing a different sport now. Yeah. And I like this sport much better. Even though I miss being fast.
What do you, I'm curious, in college, like, do you remember, like, some of the thoughts you were having when you were competing or running? Were you, like, harder on yourself than you had been in the past? Was it in a healthy way that you were, like, talking to yourself in your mind? Or do you think it was maybe negative? Like, do you remember, like...
I'm trying to think, and, I mean, again, you're still not the most mature at that time. And so if I had a bad race, you know, I'd cry. I'd feel sorry for myself. And I feel like now when I have a bad race, I feel sad. I feel sorry for myself for a little bit maybe. But then it's like, it's so much more than the actual race though, because trail events are about it sounds lame to say in college, oh, I just want to finish this race. Nobody says that. But like in this discipline, if you just get through it, because it's about problem solving and getting through challenges. And so even if you have not the ideal race, you still win in a sense. Whereas back then it was like, it was pressure. You're on a team, especially my team. My team was fourth at NCAA nationals. And so that's competitive and high pressure. So yeah, there was a lot more I guess a lot more high highs and low lows, but I was also not as mature as I am now in my thinking.
Do you find running long distances like you do? And I'm not sure if you know if this is, I mean, I'm sure the information's out there somewhere, like fast twitch muscle versus slow twitch versus, I think there's a medium twitch thing now. Is there a certain body type that lends itself, or muscle type, to long distance running? I don't know off the top of my head. I would think it's not fast twitch muscle. It's more slow twitch or medium. Is that a thing? Do you know? Or?
I can't, because I'm no expert in that regard, but I do know what's cool about the longer the distance you go, it's the age. The age isn't capped, whereas other sports, you usually
there's like brackets.
Yes, but it seems like you peak in long distance trail running or ultra running, you could be in your late 40s and
dude, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I still got time then.
Which is really exciting. It's really exciting because you can. It just seems like the older you get, the better you get.
Well, that's like when I look at guys like David Goggins or Cameron Haynes who are in their 40s. I think Cameron might be in his 50s. Do you know Cameron Haynes?
I'm not familiar, no.
Yeah, so he's an ultra marathon, does like 100-mile runs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And he trained with Goggins a little bit.
Okay.
And he's been on Rogan's podcast and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with him, but I think he's in his 50s and stuff like that. So
okay.
I was curious. So is there a certain body type that you typically see more of on these trails? I mean, tall, short, long.
And the cool thing about trail, you see it all. And that's what's really cool. And that's what's really unifying about trail running and why I love it so much is you see people from 16-year-old to like 86-year-olds. You see small, large, in between. There's no ideal. There are people that are, running in headphones and, in like basketball shorts, and then you have people in a bun hugger. You see it all. And the cool thing is you get to line up on the same starting line and that there's no like hierarchy or anything like that. And so I think that's pretty cool.
But you are still really competitive, right?
Now,
still,
yes.
Like when you run, like, because I've read your blogs and I see, like, I could see it. Like,
yes.
I remember the thing we were talking about. I can't remember which race it was, but you were running over rocks and stuff like that. And someone else came up and just like, I forget who the girl was that you were running with. And she just like easily like got over the rocks and you were like,
that was the volcanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But about how many countries have you run in? Because it seems like I follow your Instagram, see you everywhere. But
I've been on how many U.S. teams now? 6 U.S. mountain running teams, and through that journey, we've been to Switzerland, Mexico 3 times.
By the way, how do you pronounce the name of that city?
Tepetitlan.
Okay, yeah, I saw him.
Which is funny. Bellingham has a Mexican restaurant named Tepetitlan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I know. We just drove by it like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? And you didn't know until you saw it? I was like, oh, wow.
I know.
Did you eat there?
Cool. No, but we need to.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then Slovenia. So I've been able to visit all those places on the U.S. team, and then typically once a summer we go over to Europe, and I race over in Chamonix, France, either the Mont Blanc Marathon or one of the UTMB events. And this past year I did OCC, which is the 55-kilometer race over there. So.
And how do you actually get on a team? Do they approach you and they're like, hey, we want to...
There's several different ways. You get on by being on the team the previous year. So they ask the team that was the year previously. You run a qualifying race. So there's a designated race every year that is the qualifying race if you win that. And then the third is you submit a resume. And so, and that's what...
And every year do you kind of have to continually like prove? Like,
it depends on what I don't apply every year. I don't, that's not an interest of me, of mine. But when I was first getting into training every year, it was like, let's make the team. And now that I've had the experience and it's wonderful and it's great, now I'm like ready to just do different events.
Uh-huh. What do you do outside of running to like maintain your body so it doesn't break down? I saw you. What are those things you had on your legs? That's like, what is that called?
They're I forget what brand they are. They're usually the brand that people are aware
Uh-huh.
of are Normatec
And what does that do? That increases
compression.
blood flow in your legs?
Yes, it's basically like a blood pressure cuff for
Uh-huh.
your legs. And I am, disclaimer, they are not mine. I am borrowing them from a dear friend who is on vacation.
All
So
right.
she gave me her boots while she is in Hawaii right
Uh-huh.
now. So
And
thank
was it
you,
your first
Nikki.
time using these?
She is very kind and lets me use them before a big
Okay.
race, but
Is there like physical therapy or exercises? Do you foam rollers? Like what
all
are you
the
using on your body to
time.
like
Yeah,
maintain it?
I really like the I'm not sponsored by them or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I really like the Rolga, Rollga. That it's a foam roller,
Uh-huh.
but I just really like the shape of it, and so I do that, and just a lot of self massage. You
Mhm.
know, rolling the golf ball on my feet, and then stretching. I'm pretty good at
Uh-huh.
stretching. I'm pretty for a distance runner. I'm pretty
Do you
flexible.
have reoccurring injuries or things that flare up on you, like knees or back or ankles or anything? Or...
It's easier to say what doesn't hurt. Let's see.
uh-huh.
There's always something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes me a while to,
Uh-huh.
you know, get all the kinks out. Sounds like
Mhm.
Rice Krispies when I wake up in the morning.
Oh yeah. Well, I notice now that I'm older, I'm almost 40, like I have to stretch in the morning when my
Mhm.
hamstrings especially.
Mhm.
Otherwise my back hurts. So I strain
Mhm.
in my hamstrings and I got the foam rollers and the baseballs and
Yes.
like all these
Yes,
things.
yes.
Uh-huh.
And I do have to say that I have a really amazing support team here in Bellingham that help take care of me. Um,
Wait,
yes.
is it is it Dr. Steve Noble at the Bellingham Performance
He
Labs?
has been really
Because I had a
helpful.
question about that, but continue. Who's your
he
team?
he's been
Uh-huh.
helpful. We did I worked with him for a couple
Mm-hmm.
months, which was really great. But I've been working with Dr. Chris Lockwood at Align Chiropractic since
Okay.
I moved here.
Uh-huh.
Actually, when I moved in Bellingham in 2012, the beginning of 2013, I actually had an Achilles injury,
Okay.
and so I was looking for some help there, and I just through a Google search, I
Mm-hmm.
found him, and he's been a sponsor of mine since. So
Mm-hmm.
I see Dr. Lockwood once a week for a chiropractic adjustment. And then I also see Warren Schick
Mm-hmm.
for acupuncture.
Okay.
And they have been like the dream team. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
truly grateful for
Do you
them.
do massage therapy at all?
I used to, but not so much now. That's gets
Mm-hmm.
to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, it does, right?
Yes, yes.
There was a question I wanted to ask you specifically related to Dr. Steve Noble. I saw it on your website, which is how I found out about him. But you mentioned, and this was on your website, that he helped you work on your anxiety by retraining the way your body responds to your thoughts and
Mhm.
like race specific visualization.
Mhm.
That was really interesting to me. I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Mhm.
Because yeah, I'm just kind of curious about how that helped your anxiety.
Yeah, so it was really race specific. It was again that
Uh-huh.
volcanic 50 race around Mount St. Helens. I had a lot of anxiety the first year I ran it just because it's a very isolated, exposed
Hmm.
terrain, and that triggers anxiety for me. And so going into that race this year, I really wanted to conquer those fears. And so we would do uh, work where I would visualize the parts that make me nervous, and he would do some not muscle adjustments, but some muscle energy work that would help, kind of disrupt those thought
Uh-huh.
patterns
Yeah.
that associate that race or that section of the race with anxiety, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so have
Sorry,
you
Steve, if I didn't say that
That's right.
correctly.
And so over time, you felt these races, has your anxiety gotten a lot less than it used to be just over time from just, or does it
I'm
still flare up
I
pretty
I
bad
definitely have
sometimes?
to work on it. I have
Uh-huh.
to work on it pretty much every day. But I
Uh-huh.
did start taking medication in the spring, and
Uh-huh.
that has helped tremendously. I feel like I am myself every day
Mm-hmm.
instead of this constant just just pit in my stomach,
Mm-hmm.
that won't go away. So that's been really helpful for
Yeah.
me. But no, I work on it
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and it's acknowledging what triggers are. I know that if I drink too much caffeine, I turn into like Chicken Little, like the sky is gonna fall any second.
Okay.
And so
Uh-huh.
knowing that what my limitations are there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if I don't get sleep, like if I'm super tired, I know that that is kind of bad news and a
Uh-huh.
predictor of an increase in anxiety. And sometimes it just pops up out of nowhere.
Have you ever had anxiety prevent you from doing a race?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I was signed up for the Moab Marathon in 2000, gosh, 15, 16, something like that. Flew all the way to Salt Lake City, drove all the way to Moab, previewed the course, and just it freaked me out. It's a lot of exposure. It's a lot of steep cliffs. It's a lot of jumping rocks.
Oh, I've seen videos of that.
Yeah,
that does look scary. There are certain
there's
parts
like
I'm
ladders.
Jesus.
There's holding onto ropes, and it was something that I had never been exposed to before. And I wonder now if I go back, if it would elicit the same response. But back then, it just stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want it to happen during the race, and it was the night before, and I still couldn't decide. In the morning of, I just said, I woke up and I still didn't know. I told Tad, I don't know if I should run this race, and I'm just waiting for a sign. And then I kid you not, the power in the entire town went out.
Wow.
Like everything. There was nothing. It was like just pitch dark, and I'm like, that's my sign. I'm out.
And now the Moab is how many miles?
That was a marathon, 26.2.
Okay.
Yes, with like just 3,500 feet of gain, so not a lot of gain, but just technical.
What's the longest race you've done?
I did one 50-miler last November, but it'll be this 50-miler coming up that I'm doing in December. Yeah.
Is there a certain point along the way, like, where you have to dig deep? Is it like mile 45 is when you gotta like go deep and like, okay?
Yeah, I think shit got real around mile 40. I think it's all good because you're just eating
and what's
Chips
going on?
Ahoy cookies.
What's going on in your mind at that point? Are you trying to talk to you? Are you good at talking yourself and like, all right, we're doing it. We're not stopping no matter what. This is what you came here for. You just talk.
I think for that particular race, because I was running it for the experience. I wasn't really racing it. And so when I go in December, I really want to push myself to to that limit. But then I feel what really derailed my run was the temperature change. I got really cold, and it was the end of the race, and I feel like my body was just shutting down. So even I was telling myself to go forward, my body was like having this weird reaction where like across the finish line, I had to get wrapped in this crazy blankets. Like it was just a weird physiological response. It wasn't so much I can't do this. It was I don't know if I can do this, So it was just a bizarre. I'm hoping that was just a kind of a one and done freaky weird thing.
Would you ever do like 100-mile? Or
we decided that if somebody paid me $10,000, I would do it. It has to be 10,000, no less. So that's what I decided. I used to say never, 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 but 10,000.
And do you have to finish to get the 10,000, or is it just you try your best?
No, I'd say I should probably finish for 10,000.
So anyone out there with 10,000 that wants to see her do it, all right.
We'll document it. It'll be fun.
What's the level of from going to run a marathon to doing the 50-mile run that you did? What is obviously it's double pretty much like the level of difficulty physically and mentally is probably what like.
Well, there was an intermediate step in between there, so I did plenty of 50Ks, which is 31.2, which isn't that much different than a marathon. However, a mountainous 50K or a mountainous marathon. So what I'm talking about is in reference to the vertical gain. So for example, Mont Blanc marathon is a marathon, but it has almost 10,000 feet of climbing.
God,
so
dude,
so the time on my feet is just as long as a 50K.
Wow.
So it's more about time versus distance when we're talking about trails, because the technicality and the amount of vertical gain play that much of a difference.
So the vertical gain you said is 10,000 feet?
Close to, yeah. It might be just under.
And so you're running at that elevation at some point? Or is it just
not
up
at that elevation, just the up and down. I
down?
think it bounces between, gosh, I want to say like 4 and 7, something like that.
That's still
5
really
and
high
7.
though. I feel
For sea level, yes.
For sea level, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It'd
It's
be
not
very
fun
beneficial
when
if
you don't live at altitude.
When I was in Maui, we went to Mount Haleakala, I think is how you pronounce it. But that was like 10,000 feet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was with my daughter and we were walking and I was like, oh my God. Like I had never been so
joke.
out of breath so
it's
quick.
It's no joke.
I was like, I'm having a heart attack. Like I
feel
my heart's like bam, bam, bam. Yeah. Okay. So when you're on these runs, like how important, I want to talk about technique a little bit.
Okay.
Like technique. For example, let's just talk about like breathing for a second. Is there a proper way to breathe? Like in your nose, out your nose, in your nose, out your mouth? It doesn't matter. In your mouth, out your mouth. Is there a way, or does it not matter? Has there been
I
any
mean,
research done, or
honestly,
is it just whatever
and there
works?
very well could be research.
Uh-huh.
I'm no expert in that. And honestly, I never overthink that
Okay.
stuff too much. And it's basically just what's my perceived effort?
Uh-huh.
Do I feel like I'm sucking wind? Is it too early to be feeling this way? So it's
Uh-huh.
not like how am I breathing? It's how hard am I breathing? What is the effort? And so that is what I closely monitor. Like I don't run races or hard workouts with anything in my ears because I'm trying to be in tune with how does my breathing feel? How do my legs feel?
Wait, you don't run with music?
No,
Nothing.
never. I do
Wow.
podcasts on easy days. So
Okay.
yeah.
What
so
podcast do you listen to or something?
oh, I have my husband, we're good friends with Mark Maron.
Okay.
Yeah, the WTF podcast.
Uh-huh.
We're not really friends, but he's my training buddy.
Okay.
So we really like Mark. This American Life,
Uh-huh.
Radio Lab.
Radio Labs.
I listen to a lot of dietitians, so I
Uh-huh.
try to stay on top of the current research.
You
And
listen to Ben Greenfield or Dr. Rhonda Patrick?
oh no,
They're really
no.
good.
Oh, there's so many.
Shout out to them.
Yes,
There's too many.
there's so many.
I got like 15 podcasts.
And then of
I
course,
can't-
yeah, and
it's
then
like-
of course you have they're the chunk of podcasts where I just check to see who's on, and
Me
then
too, yeah.
yeah, because they're like 3 hours long, and
I
it's
know.
like I can't.
I was having this
you know?
conversation with Danielle today because we were listening to Dax Shepard's
Oh
podcast.
yeah, I heard that was
He
good.
had Amelia Clark on there, a Game
Oh,
of Thrones
uh-huh.
fan. She was on there. I'm like, gotta listen to this
Yes,
one.
exactly.
So that was really good. yeah.
Yes.
In
yep.
terms of shoes, have you ever tried? I don't know what you wear. I know you're sponsored by.
La Sportiva, so I wear solely La Sportiva.
And what kind? Do they have all kinds of different shoes? Is it like?
They specialize in trail and mountain wear,
Okay.
so they're very trail specific shoes. It's not a road shoe trying to be a trail shoe. They are the real deal trail and mountain shoes, which means they have a rock plate in them so that you don't feel rocks coming through the soles.
Wow, nice.
They are La Sportiva are made with sticky rubber so that when you're jumping up on rocks, it has super good grip. And so I don't have any experience running in like say a Nike trail shoe or Brooks trail shoe. Just I've been with La Sportiva straight.
Do
right
people
out of the
run? Have you coached people or had any experience with people that use like minimalist shoes when they run? Those vibrant things were popular for a while.
I think that's
that fad's
that kind of pendulum switched to
Yeah.
now we're in the Hoka era where everyone's like a maximalist, and so
Okay.
yeah, so it's kind of funny, and I always liken that pendulum swing to almost like fad diets with food. Like remember like back in the 90s it was like everything
No fat.
no fat, and it was like I call it the Snackwell era. I remember there's like chocolate cookies like
And
they
everyone's
had,
like, no saturated fat, no fat. And then it turns out fat's really good for you.
no eggs,
And it messes up
now
your hormones if you're not getting
so
enough. Yeah.
now
it's
it's
like,
switched to now sugar's being demonized and fat is good, and so it's kind of the same thing with shoes. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the pendulum swings again and then we're back into the minimalist era. So yeah.
Okay. And in terms of like coaching, because you do coaching, when did you start doing coaching, and what has that experience been like? And going into it, were you like nervous? Were you excited? Was it something you always wanted to do eventually, or?
Yes and no. So I've been a dietitian out here doing private practice for 6 or 7 years now, and coaching is something that people have asked me if I wanted to do, and honestly it's never been something I wanted to do because I know how invested a coach needs to be. It is an emotional investment. It is not something like I'm enough to deal with. I don't I'm not ready to deal with other people's emotions. I mean, ask my husband. He's been my coach since out of college, and so it's a lot, you have to deal with the ups and downs and everything in between, and so it's not something that I felt ready to take on, especially because what I do in the dietetics world is so emotionally involved. I wasn't ready to like open up this whole gateway to something else. So it wasn't until very recently, and I'm talking in the past 5 months I've started coaching.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a
That's
relatively new endeavor for me, but the good news is I do enjoy it. I do enjoy having that close relationship, and I'm not looking for hundreds of athletes to coach. I want a small, solid bunch where I can give them the time and attention that they deserve. And I feel like a good coach is not going to say, here's your here's your 3-week plan. I'll check in you at the end of the month. It's how are you feeling today?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how's your stress level today? Did you sleep well last night? Then let's not do the workout, or let's push the run later, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's problem solving and checking in every
Mm-hmm.
single day. And that was not something that I was ready to do until I feel like I developed the skills I needed to
Mm-hmm.
be a good coach. So I feel like, and it's such a saturated thing, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's a coach, and I don't like to be like everybody else. I
Yeah.
just don't.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought, you know, what can I do to stand apart? And it's that intimacy, it's that daily check-in, it's that
Mm-hmm.
time investment. So it's just now has been the time to kind of dive into that.
And do you find, do you only work with athletes and experienced runners, or would you work with someone brand new looking to get into running trails or mountains, or do you even just do the casual runner who just wants to run around their neighborhood or on the track? Is it
hmm
everybody, or is it just a specific
I
group?
would
Or
say I would be willing to take on any runner, and
mm-hmm.
I do offer a service where there's a free call that we can talk and discuss goals and like what your
Mm-hmm.
current abilities are. But I would say what I specialize in would be trail and mountain specific, especially that kind of marathon to 50 miles sweet spot, just because I have the most experience, and my husband's been a runner his whole life, and so between the two of us we
Mm-hmm.
have over 50 years of experience to offer. And
Uh-huh.
so I wouldn't necessarily turn anybody away, but that's where I guess the sweet spot would be.
Mm-hmm. And have you found certain? I know it's been 5 months, but when you're speaking to people, is it
Mhm.
kind of like, are you at a stage where you can kind of get a feel for where this person's at in terms of, are they the type of person that's really going to work hard? Are they, the type of person who's going to be really serious? Or is it a type of person who's kind of looking for excuses, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Accountability.
yeah, you
Mhm.
kind of,
And the group that I'm currently working with have been really awesome, and typically one seeks a coach because they are motivated,
mm-hmm,
and you know they want to be better. And so
that's a good point.
so Tad
Uh-huh.
always says, my coach is a coach prevents you from doing something stupid. So
Okay.
usually
Uh-huh.
people want to overdo it, they want to do too much, and it's like someone there to say rein it in today, or we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to push it this hard today, and let's, you know, approaching training in a maybe a more thoughtful or smarter way, or from a different perspective. And also just there's so much information out there,
Mm-hmm.
just having one focus point, one voice telling
Mm-hmm.
you, giving you advice and giving you guidance, I think is really helpful, just because of so much chaos
Mm-hmm.
out there.
How much of it is genetic, like talent, just what you got, what you're born with?
Mhm.
And how much would you say is also like mental? Like, I would imagine some people's bodies probably break down more
Mhm.
than others.
Mhm.
And some people are able to do these 100, 200, 240,
Mhm.
like these insane runs.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, how much is genetic,
Right.
right? And how much is
Right.
just, your mental
Yeah,
fortitude and
right,
what you put
right.
into it?
I mean, you definitely have your outliers. Like you had mentioned Courtney DeWalter
Uh-huh.
earlier on. She's
Crazy.
definitely
Hmm.
just a phenom.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know, outside of the average person. But I think when it comes to running these longer
Hmm.
distance, there are so many other variables that yes, talent does play a role, but I feel like it gets much smaller because so many other factors come into play, like how trained is your gut to take in food, and that's something you can train yourself.
Hmm.
So just because
Wait, say that again. How trained did your
you can
gut take?
train your
Based
gut.
on your gut bacteria? Is that what you
No,
mean? Or
just to eat food, because running long
uh-huh.
distances you have to be able to
Eat
eat, and
while
if
you're,
you can't
oh,
eat,
oh,
you're
wow, that's
not
interesting.
going to be
Uh-huh.
successful. And that's something you can train yourself to do. It has nothing to do with talent or
Uh-huh.
genetics. It's practice. It's the taking the time to do it. Your gut is just like a muscle that you can train.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the longer the distance, the more of these factors come into play, like how serious is your recovery. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be able to, I don't care how talented you are, if you're not sleeping well at night, if your stress level is out of control, if you are not partaking in any kind of self-care, you're not going to be, you know, able to be competitive, or not even competitive, but just finish these
Mm-hmm.
races. So there's a lot more variables that come into play the longer the distance, whereas, you know, the shorter
Mm-hmm.
distances, I think that talent does have
Mm-hmm.
kind of the edge over, I don't want to say it has the edge over hard work, but it definitely has more a larger role.
Okay. And in terms of being a dietitian, um, what do you see, like when you first get started working with someone? what are the things you immediately try to change? I know you talked earlier about having them listen to their body and
Mm-hmm.
kind of what their body needs and
Mm-hmm.
wants. But if someone comes to you who isn't very intuitive or in touch with their body and literally has very little experience with diet and nutrition, like what's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you try to do? Do you try to say, do you ask them what they're eating currently, and then do
Mm-hmm.
you try to educate them like these probably
Mm-hmm.
foods aren't? Is that kind of how you?
So the first thing that I always tell people is that only they can be the expert of their own body. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
here to tell them what they can and cannot do. And I always say, if there's anybody who's telling you that you should like run the opposite direction,
Uh-huh.
because only you live in your body. Only you have your likes and your dislikes,
Uh-huh.
your stress levels, your sleep patterns, your spouse, your kids, etc. And so I'm here as a guide to figure out, first of all, understanding and not making any assumptions of what you want out of the experience or the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but I'm here to help you have a healthier relationship with
Mm-hmm.
food, making peace with food. So letting go of these arbitrary rules that diet culture has kind of
Mm-hmm.
bestowed upon us, whether, this food's good and this food's bad. So I try to help people's perspective and make food a more neutral playing
Mm-hmm.
field. But I also take a look at what are you currently doing that's working for you and how can we make it a little bit better. I don't care what's bad or whatever that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing now that you're unhappy with. What can we add to what you're currently doing? Are you eating one fruit a week? Let's make
Mm-hmm.
it two. And it's these small incremental changes, because anything that's going to be, if I suggested a huge diet overhaul, that's going to be overwhelming. It's not going to be doable, and it's not going to be
Mm-hmm.
helpful at all. It's not going to be sustainable.
I had chicken wings and ice cream for dinner last night. Is that okay?
Was it good?
It was great.
All right,
And
you
I'm
enjoyed
here.
it.
And
All
I'm here. I did
right.
great. I did
Yep.
great today.
Awesome.
Couple more questions and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
At this point in your career,
Yes.
I'm curious. Are you enjoying it now more than ever?
I
Or is it,
am.
yeah?
I
And
am
what kind of
actually.
like goals
Yeah.
and like, do you have some goals in your mind about? I mean, I know you got a race coming up, December
Yes.
7th.
December 7th.
Dude,
Yes.
memory's still good.
Yes. Nice.
And it's usually not. So do you have like a long-term goal or plan as far as like certain races you want to tackle you haven't done, and like what's the future looking like in terms of the direction you want to
Mm,
head? You want to take on more clients for coaching?
yeah,
Like what's
I'm
the
always looking for more.
uh
I'm always taking, if anyone, want some guidance with
uh
nutrition, like I said, I have that discovery call where if you're interested in either nutrition or coaching, we can have that call to see if we would be right for each other.
And
So
can you
I
tell
do
everyone
have
your
that.
website?
Yeah, it's just Maria Dalzot, my full name, RD, which is
Mm-hmm.
registereddietitian.com. And social media, it's all my
Yeah,
name. Super easy to
I
get
put a
hold
post
of.
too on social media, and
Yes,
so
thank
yeah,
you. I
yes.
appreciate that. But yeah, just I feel like I'm finally getting in my groove, so to speak, with the
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, and so that's been really fulfilling and really exciting. And as far as running goes, after this 50 miler, I'm taking a break, man. I'm like
Yeah.
shutting it down for the
Uh,
year, and I'm gonna go home and see my family for the holidays, and then January 1st we'll start
uh,
getting back into the training. And as far as races next year, I don't plan too far ahead. It seems like I'm fortunate that the races that I do want to do, I'm able to get in. There's not a long wait list, or it's not something that you need.
mm-hmm.
100 milers, it's hard to get into, and that's not something I'm interested in doing. And
Oh, what is
so
it? What do you mean it's hard to get into? Like,
they sell out, and you have to
oh, really?
wait, or you have to, like, there's
Wow.
lotteries, like it's a whole big thing. And
Mm-hmm.
typically the races I want to do, I usually don't have a problem getting in, so it's not like I have to make a decision
Mm-hmm.
super early. So I'm very lucky in that regard. So I can take it,
Mm-hmm.
month by month, see how things are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and just see how I feel, because
Mm-hmm.
you never know.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So, last question:
Yeah.
running, uh, trail running, mountain running, a running coach, dietitian.
Yes.
Which one of those has been the most, would you say, exciting, or would you say that you love doing the most, or
Mm-hmm.
is you're most passionate about,
Yeah,
or?
I love that question. And
Uh-huh.
I always say that running is my number one passion, but food is a very close second. Probably running. I mean, I've always identified as a runner since
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about, just a little girl. I've
Yeah.
always been a runner, and it's always been kind of the driving force behind
Mm-hmm.
everything that I do. I live my life. It's something I'm proud of, something that has given me confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and something that teaches me every single day, you know, gets me out of my comfort zone. And I feel, again, very grateful and very fortunate that I have something like that in my life. I feel very grateful. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on podcast doing
Thank
this.
you.
Again, shout out the website one more time.
It is mariadalzotrd.com.
So if you guys want to get a hold of her, dietitian, running coach, follow her on Instagram.
Yes, thank you.
Great stuff. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
thanks so much. It was nice meeting you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. That was awesome.